and welcome to episode 99 of the Dinner Sisters podcast. 99, Betsy. Crazy. Okay, I think we say that now that we're in the 90s, we're just going to keep repeating that until people are sick of it. And I don't care, because it's a lot. All right, well, we're two sisters taking on the nightly challenge of dinner. I'm Kate Schultz, living and working in Rhode Island. I'm a passionate cook and recipe collector, always thinking about my next meal.
And I'm Betsy Wallace. I live, work, and raise a family in Atlanta, Georgia. I love dinner time, but can always use help planning and cooking. For my family of 5, I've got 3 kiddos. They are 5, 7, and 10.
Our goal with this podcast, we want to cook a little better, learn a little bit about food, and most importantly, figure out what the heck to have for dinner. And here's how this works. Like every week, we have 3 recipes that we cooked and reviewed from popular food blogs, internet chefs, anywhere I can find a recipe on the World Wide Web. We have all these recipes, tips, the smorgasbord, and a shopping list on our website at dinnersisters.com. You can also get them sent directly to your inbox if you subscribe to our newsletter, which I write every week. And if you're the type of person who likes to preview things before listening.
Okay, Kate, let's dive in here. This week's recipes were slow roasted salmon with fennel, citrus, and chilies by Bon Appetit, slow roasted chicken with oregano and buttered tomatoes from Allison Roman via the New York Times Cooking, and slow roasted sweet potatoes on Wisconsin Public Radio with Smitten Kitchen.
There's a clue in all these titles about the episode today, so I'll leave it to our listeners to figure it out ahead of time. But my thoughts lately are all about food that just warms you up. And that's what I was thinking about when I was writing this episode. I was like, I just want warming food. And so not only when you make these slow roasted recipes do you get a warm, cuddly dinner, but all that roasting warms your house right up.
Yeah, Kate, it's been 25 degrees out here in the morning, which is cold. I mean, it's
that's
25.
Cold for you.
When we're walking to school. So I agreed. If there is a time to be slow roasting in Atlanta, it is this week. So it matched up perfectly.
Oh, good. Well, let's dive right in here, as you said. First up, we have slow roasted salmon with fennel, citrus, and chilies by Bon Appetit. And I have to admit, Betsy, I picked this just because I wanted to eat some salmon. There's no other reason. I was like, I want a salmon recipe, which is nice because this is my podcast and, we do what we want. So here we are. This is a big fillet of salmon, slow roasted with sliced fennel, orange, and green chilies. Oh, and orange lemon. This is the citrus thing, green chilies. And to make it, you just slice up the veggies toss them with salt and pepper and some fresh dill. You lay them in the bottom of a 3-quart roasting dish, I think that's what it said. And then put the seasoned salmon fillet on top, pour a 1/4 cup of olive oil all over everything. And then you just roast it on a low heat, 275. So pretty low for 30 to 40 minutes until it's done to your liking. They say 30 minutes-ish is around medium rare. I did about 35, I think. And this came out perfectly moist and super delicious. Betsy, how did everyone like it?
So we love salmon at our house, so I figured this would go over well, and it did. I usually leave the jalapenos and the chilies and that type of stuff out, but I didn't this time because I really wanted them in here because I thought I would like it. And I just served it and didn't give anyone a warning.
Oh boy.
And my kids were kind of eating it and they were like, ooh, I think I got something spicy.
Like a little surprise salmon?
Like a little surprise spice. And they're kind of like, what's in here? It's spicy. So that was...
pepped up dinner, I guess.
Yeah, it was. And then they were running for more water and they were being very dramatic about it. But everyone liked it. I mean...
That's good.
It was great. I had to go to 2 stores to find fennel. So I'm not sure if it was just the first store wasn't stocking it. I think this is something, again, I'd make when I see fennel just in every single... there's that season where fennel is everywhere. This would be a good recipe for that. Also, I couldn't find dill. So there's that.
Yeah. So fennel, I feel like because of where I am located, people eat fennel a lot. And I think it's an Italian thing. And that I just see fennel, sometimes it's better than others for sure. But rarely I can't find it. I also couldn't find fresh dill. I think that might be just a seasonal thing. Yeah. I used dried. Did you use any at all?
I just left it completely out, and I'm sure it would be good with it in. I don't think it
wasn't a make or break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in times where maybe dill is more available, which is kind of funny because that's summertime, but that's when you can't find great citrus. So I don't know. It was fine. I actually had an ordering mishap at Whole Foods, and I ordered 2 pounds of salmon.
Yeah.
And it came, and I was like, well, that's funny. My order was a little more expensive than I thought. Oh, well, did not even check it. The salmon came. I was like hefting it out of the bag. Ridiculous. And I just was like, well, I got to make this. I have no room in my freezer for more salmon or anything else. And James actually like got a stomach ache from eating all the salmon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was like, this is so good. And I was like, okay. He's like, what? Ate so much fish? So this was delicious. And then I ate it the rest of the week with like some quinoa and lentils that I made, like a little lentil salad kind of situation. It was delicious. And so, you know, in the past, I gotta admit, like salmon, for some reason, I'll overcook because I'll forget it. I don't know what my deal is. And this was just like almost bomb proof. Mm-hmm. You know, the olive oil kept it really moist. The fennel and the peppers were delicious. I enjoyed my little spicy surprises.
Mm-hmm. As did I. Mm-hmm. I mean, I loved it. Ryan kept saying, I'm not sure if spicy and spicy and salmon goes together, but he liked it. And also, I mean, like we've said before, Ryan is not a cooking expert, so I'm not sure why he is always...
Also, was he eating it?
He was eating a lot of it.
Okay.
As he said, I'm not sure these two things go together. I'm like, but are they delicious? Could the recipe developer be onto something here?
All right. For me, this is a 5 out of 5 just because I was so happy to make super moist and delicious salmon. What about you for rating?
I'm giving this a high 4 out of 5. I liked it. I thought some of the ingredients were just a little bit funny to try and find all year round. I thought it was a little, just a touch inaccessible for me. But,
that is a good point.
You know, yeah.
Fair point.
Okay, moving on here. Next up, we have the slow roasted chicken with oregano and buttered tomatoes from Allison Roman in New York Times Cooking. Kate, tell us about this.
All right. So Allison Roman, queen of the Instagram recipe. She's super viral. We have talked about her cookies before and other things. She has a new cookbook out called Dining In. And this is one of those released recipes to promote the book, the chicken recipe, right? And so it fit our episode perfectly. So here we are. It's like, let's do this. So to make it is basically a slow roasted chicken with tomatoes in the dish with garlic and things. And to make it, you just salt and pepper a whole chicken, and then you stuff the cavity with fresh oregano, put it in a 3-quart baking dish, and sprinkle it with crushed fennel seeds, and then drizzle it with olive oil. The chicken, that is. And you just surround in the baking dish the chicken with half tomatoes, the rest of the fresh oregano, 2 heads of garlic that you have cut in half horizontally. Like if you were roasting garlic or something, you put that around. And then little dabs of butter, salt and pepper. You put it in a 375-degree oven for about 3 hours or until she says the tomatoes are jammy. You know. Mm-hmm. So Betsy, you and I have talked about this. Mm-hmm. Kind of know how this went. But I think we should talk about how this ended up for you.
Yeah, Kate, it wasn't great. I'm just going to... I think we figured out what the problem was, but I will tell you, when I made this, if anyone was following Instagram stories, I was also like live storying this. Right. And being like, in goes my chicken.
Here it so delicious.
Yeah, it's going to be so great. And then I pulled it out, and this chicken is like swimming in liquid. It is like...
That's so crazy.
2/3 of the way full with liquid. And so we eat it, and I texted you and said, this is kind of funny. This chicken doesn't seem, it just is so, there's so much liquid in here. And then I texted you later and said, I'm really upset about this chicken.
Yeah. The text went from like, that's weird, to like super irritated by the end of the night.
Yeah, I went because I kept thinking about this chicken because I know if you've had a slow cooker chicken, and I described it as like an allrecipes.com slow cooker chicken, which is sort of like overdone to the point of like the chicken has
gets a little mushy.
It gets mushy. You can't tell what's cartilage and what's chicken, and it's all kind of just blending together. There's no flavor. So
you were a little disappointed.
I was a little disappointed, and then also I was a little bit concerned because I said, "Well, you need to make this recipe because I don't think we can drag Allison Roman on our podcast."
No,
I mean,
my God. I mean, I think that means you never get to go on Instagram again, and I'm addicted to it. So that would have been terrible. So I went into this with a lot of trepidation.
Right.
I was like, okay, and like, let me be clear. I always read the recipes. I follow the directions. This one, I was like reading it word for word because it seemed screw this up.
Right. What were we going to do here?
Yeah, but like the whole point of her cookbook, Dining In, is like casual, easy, entertaining. So it's like, this cannot be that hard of a recipe, right? Like maybe it was I don't know. But here's the deal. I made it. I sent you a picture and you're like, that's not the same chicken.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what that is, but that's not what I made. And also, now we've made 300 recipes, and I'm pretty sure I made this correctly because it was not that difficult.
Yeah, you did push back on that. Fair enough. Yeah. Mine was like beautifully golden crispy. The tomatoes were like jammy on the side. I was like, Betsy, I just keep eating this chicken. It's so good.
Yeah, I was so angry. So we have talked a while about this offline, and we did some internet research, and we've been trying we were talking through
what happened
because we got such different outcomes here. And I think in the end, what we landed on was that my chicken, I just kind of grabbed a chicken, and it was a probably 4 to 5 pound chicken.
It was it looked pretty big in that dish.
Yes.
You know.
And she recommends in the recipe she calls for a 3 pound chicken, and which is what you used. So
yeah, I mean honestly, that's just what came in my order. Like I didn't even pick this chicken out. It was the same order that I did the ridiculous 2 pounds of salmon order.
Right.
And and I remember looking at the chicken and being like, "Huh, that's a smaller one,"
which really turned out.
But it was like 3 pounds because I checked the label.
Yeah. Yes. So what we decided was that my 5 pound, 4 or 5 pound kind of larger sized chicken probably crowded out my baking dish to the point where it really was not like everything was just sort of captured in there, and everything steamed and just did not roast the way it was supposed to. Kate, I think it's about making sure when you're buying these larger cuts of meat or like a whole chicken to actually look at the size of what you're buying, which I am not very careful with, but I guess I should be, because I think that's what made the difference here is that my actual chicken was too big.
Yeah. And you know, when you and I talked about this, I mean, I hadn't really thought about it either. Cause I think sometimes too, like you can't really control sometimes if you get an exactly 3 pound chicken or an exactly 4 pounds of the pork roast at the butcher's. You know, sometimes Whole Foods will not cut off a pound for me. This is not an all service butchery. Maybe you've got one. If you do, good for you. Or maybe you're buying shrink wrapped ones and you just kind of like find the one that's close enough. Right.
Right.
But I mean, you and I were talking about this. I mean, it's really the difference between, if you think about it, like cooking 3 pounds of ground beef on the stove or 5 pounds of ground beef on the stove.
Which everyone would say, well, that's crazy. You couldn't, that wouldn't be the same recipe. I mean,
right. You'd be like, are you sure that's a good idea? But I think for this, you're like, oh, well, like, what's the difference? 2 pounds of chicken. Who cares? And I think in this case, it really matters. And that's what really gave it all that liquid. Lesson learned, but I'm sorry you had to learn it.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm glad it happened because it was a good learning lesson. And as I went and researched this online, a lot of time I came up with this Google answer quite a bit, which was a lot of older recipes were made for 3 pound chickens, and now 4 and 5 pound chickens are more common at the grocery store. So it's just something to be aware of when you are looking at a whole chicken recipe. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, agreed. I will say for me, when I made it, it was like really delicious. Yeah. And it had kind of the fennel and the oregano. So there's like kind of Italian air about it a little bit. The tomatoes, like I said, were delicious. And I did not serve it on toast. She recommends that, but I would 100% do that if you have guests, because that toast would be like soaked with this like really amazing tomatoey chicken juices, which would be so, so good. So, I called this a 4 to 5, Betsy. I would actually love to make this again. And I don't know if I can convince you, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, I might
maybe
try
just move on.
Right. I mean, I did not feel so burned by this. Honestly, I just was thinking like, well, that didn't quite work. But maybe I would try it again. I think you could also, if you used a larger chicken, use a larger roasting pan. I don't know.
Maybe.
And either way, I'm not rating it because it clearly was a mishap on my end. So, okay. Last recipe of the day is slow roasted sweet potatoes on Wisconsin Public Radio with Smitten Kitchen.
All right. Oh, who doesn't like a sweet potato? I'm sure there's people out there, but I mean, they're pretty like ubiquitous, right? And so this recipe promised a super caramelized, really roasty sweet potato, which sounded delicious. And I was like, oh, well, this will fit right in, a nice vegetarian option for this episode. Really simple to make them. You preheat your oven to 275. You take 4 decent sized sweet potatoes and you just rub them with a generous amount of olive oil, sprinkle them with a ton of salt and a little bit of pepper. You put them on a baking sheet and you just bake until they're nice and soft and the bottoms are like caramelized on the, nice and like, you've got the sugars going. It's about 2.5 hours and you finish them off. This is interesting by, charring them under the broiler in that last like minute or two, just so you get like kind of that like smokiness to it. You let them sit for about 10 minutes and then you split them open to eat them. That's about it. You're roasting a sweet potato. So how did this go for you, Betsy?
I really liked these. And I think I told you this. I made the salmon at the same time because both of them are at 275. So that salmon.
That was so smart. I did not see that.
Yeah, the
like,
salmon. Right. Look at that little trick.
Look at you.
The salmon was going at 275. The sweet potatoes are 275. So I started my sweet potatoes first. And in the last about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, I put that salmon in. And then we had what felt like a huge healthy meal, which was amazing, and tons of leftovers. I really liked, they have a couple suggestions at the bottom here. And one was a chonk, which is something we learned about during the Indianish episode from Priya Krishna. And that's kind of like some spices that are toasted in an oil and then you pour it over. I didn't make it, but I thought it was, if I make these again, which I think I will, these sweet potatoes, I would love to try that. And they had lots of kind of topping suggestions.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I'm excited to make these again because I want to make the toppings now. Yeah, the hardest part was actually just waiting because I was getting really hungry. I was like, are they done yet? But honestly, I started them on a Sunday afternoon. I was doing laundry and just kind of putting around the house. And I had this smell of delicious sweet potatoes. I think that was part of it, is I was just like smelling them the whole time in my little apartment. But by the time I was ready to eat, though, I mean, really ready to eat, they were done. And I was like super pleased at this like super satisfying vegetarian roasted meal. It had the same kind of notes of like, for me, eating the slow roasted salmon, like very warming and nutritious tasting and just like very satisfying. I ended up making these and then I made 2 of them because 4 is a lot of sweet potatoes for anybody,
right.
In like a very small household. So I ended up making 2, which is fine. It worked out really well. I ate them the first night. I just ate like half of one with a little bit of like yogurt on the side. I think I had some chicken left over or something. And then I ate the rest of them. I packed, and I'm not a meal prepper, right? I mean, I'm not prepping meals here, but I was like, oh, I can like pseudo meal prep. And so I had 3 halves of sweet potatoes, shoved those in some containers with black beans and my delicious chili crisp.
Yum.
And then I had some avocados. Betsy, I'm like feel really together this week.
Living your best life.
Living my best life. I'm like, oh, these lunches that I have already made, instead of like desperately putting a salad together at the last minute and like swearing because I have to crack an egg and I can't handle anymore. Yeah. I mean, not that that's happened, but if it did, like this is a much better option. So I love this. I mean, and again, kudos to Smitten Kitchen. Never steering us wrong. Extra thanks to Wisconsin Public Radio, which is actually how I first found the recipe. So I wanted to give them a shout out because I was like, okay. And they have the toppings, which I thought was really fun. So what was your rating, Betsy?
I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. And it's funny that you say that you halved the recipe. I mean, this is like infinitely flexible, but I made probably 6 or 7 at least.
Oh, you did?
Potatoes. Oh, yeah. Because there's 5 people and everyone wanted a sweet potato. And
yeah, fair enough.
I wanted some extras to make those sweet potato quesadillas. So
I thought of that and I had no tortillas in the house.
I
mean, could I get tortillas? Yes. I should just get tortillas.
Yeah,
Not a
well, I
sweet
think
potatoes.
your chili crisp did the trick. You used
Sure
them
did.
other ways. Yeah.
Sure did. Yeah, this is a 5 out of 5 for me as well.
Yeah. Okay. Wrapping up, Kate, what was your winner on the week?
I'm so torn because I loved both the salmon and the sweet potatoes, but I'm going to go with the salmon because it was easy for me, and I usually don't do salmon really well, and I was like, this is perfect. What about you?
I'm going to go with the sweet potatoes because I felt like that gave me a really good way to make them, and I thought they were extra caramely and extra delicious. So,
yeah, I'm with you on that. Now I'm going back to sweet potatoes. Well, in any case, if any of these recipes sound good to you, make sure to check out our show notes and our grocery list at dinnersisters.com. There you'll find links to all the recipes, anything we talked about, like the 5-pound chicken situation, and any other discussion we had. If you'd like to chat more with us, you can always ask to join our Dinner Sisters Facebook group. We would love to see you on the boards there. We're at Dinner Sisters Podcast. Just search for that and you'll find us.
All right, Kate, before we head to the smorgasbord, a break. Okay, Kate, for the smorgasbord today, we are pulling out a old classic, Rants and Raves. And then we have a special announcement at the end, so make sure you listen all the way through today.
Okay, Betsy, so you're doing rant. What is your rant for the day?
Okay, so my rant has to do with baking, and it's not. I've found a sort of newfound love and appreciation, especially after our Midwest Made cookbook week. I love that. One thing that is driving me absolutely bonkers on baking recipes is the direction to let your dough or batter or what have you rest wrapped in plastic wrap or saran wrap.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying to eliminate saran wrap and some single-use plastics from my kitchen, and I've been mostly successful, and I know there are a lot of alternatives, which we'll talk about. But I really wish that recipe developers and recipe writers would include, just in the course of writing the recipe, an alternative, like wrap it in plastic wrap or your beeswax, or it doesn't need to be wrapped, or tell me why I specifically need plastic wrap for this, or if I don't. And it just comes up a lot, specifically in baking, and every time I see it, I get a little angry.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I wonder, I've got a couple theories. I think some of it is just like, if you go to culinary school and you work in a pastry kitchen, you have this gigantic box of industrial plastic wrap, and it's like a thing of magic, right? You can like wrap anything in it, and it's got this little slider, goes zip, zip, and then you've got this plastic wrap forever. So I think you just get in the habit. I'm not trying to excuse it. I think that's kind of maybe where some of it comes from. Yeah. But I think you're right. Sometimes, like, they'll say, wrap your dough tight as it rises. And I think maybe sometimes that's true, but oftentimes, like, a towel is fine. Like, you just want stuff to fall on it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is what I would like to know. How necessary is this? Like, is a tea towel okay here, or is saran wrap a necessity? Because I tried to eliminate everything totally, but now I realized I would just get frustrated sometimes. So I have a roll of saran wrap, and I have one bag of gallon Ziplocs, but I try to really make those last as long as I possibly can. So I want to use it sparingly and only when it's really needed. And these bakers are just like, use it willy-nilly. Yeah.
Rant.
It's my
Plastic
rant.
wrap.
It's my rant. Yeah. Okay.
That's a good one.
What's your rave?
Okay, my rave is like on the opposite end of the spectrum for plastic wrap, which is actually boiled eggs, which has a little bit to do with what I was talking about before about having my life together, which is I have gotten in this new habit of making like 6 to 8, like a half dozen or so, like 7-minute eggs, and then I keep them in my little Odette, like not Odette, Alexander. Let me say this again. I keep these 7-minute eggs, and I keep them in my little Alexander Stafford 1 quart. Or 2 quarts? Is it 2 quarts?
It's
Pyrex?
1 quart.
1 quart Pyrex bowls.
Nice.
That I sometimes have for bread, but most oftenly I've got it, and then I can just pull it out. But in any case, it fits exactly like 8 little eggs. And to make them, I do the put them in boiling water method. So I boil some water, lower the eggs in once the water's boiling, and then boil them for exactly 7 minutes because I like a 7-minute egg, which is just on the side of like done enough that you can cut it up. It's not super runny. And then I just like shock them in cold ice water, pull them out, and keep them in the fridge.
Nice.
And then I just have like a little bowl of hard-boiled eggs, which is so nice because I'll have like 1 or 2 for breakfast sometimes, or like sliced on some toast, and then, or like I really want a bad snack, not a bad snack, but like a not so good for you snack.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll be like, I'll have an egg. I like an egg, and they're nutritious and good, and I'll put some crunchy salt on it, and it's delightful. And it's just one of those things that makes you feel like you have your life together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, so that's my little rave. I would encourage you, if you're an egg eater, consider keeping a little bowl of them in the fridge because they last. I mean, I don't even keep them; they're not in there longer than a week for sure. And I like them in the bowl because then you don't have the "is this hard boiled or not" question. Which is, if you put them back in an egg carton, you're like, and that's always not good. So yeah, that's my rave for the day. But enough of the hard-boiled eggs. Betsy, I'm so excited for our special announcement. Take it away, because this is all about you. It's so exciting.
Yeah. So I have to give like a little bit of context here. So in December, I actually posted also on the Facebook group because Airbnb sent out an email saying, and I'm going to quote it, to celebrate Airbnb cooking experiences, a new category of bookable experiences that unlock the hidden culinary traditions of family around the world. We are launching a global search for 100 of the world's best home cooks and treating them to a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Italy. The successful collective of cooks will be whisked away next summer to a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Italy where they'll learn to refine their family recipes alongside a host of culinary experts, including Momofuku, chef and founder David Chang and his mom Sherry. They'll also cement their legacy in Airbnb's very first cookbook, which will be unveiled later next year.
But Betsy, why are you telling us all about this?
Yeah.
These 100 very amazing home cooks.
Mm-hmm. So on a whim, because I'm always looking for ways for us to promote our podcast. I do. I've applied this for
so
everything,
many things.
Kate. Yes.
Yeah. You don't even tell me about half of them. Like, I think I hear 50%.
I secretly applied Kate to be a guest on the Rachel Ray show. We will tell that story at another time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But we for sure got some calls from producers. Anyway,
we did. It was very exciting.
I apply for a lot of things. So I applied for this, and I just found out this afternoon that I made this final cut. I am one of the 100 home cooks.
Yes.
Kate,
so exciting.
I think the actual quote is world's best home cooks.
Betsy, don't be so sarcastic. Someone will listen to this and be like,
I know, right?
We can find someone else.
Okay, so I know what you're thinking if you listen to this podcast. Like, did I lie? Did I falsify my application? Do they know who they are getting? Which
your own husband asked you.
Right. He was like, what? So I thought to close out this special announcement, I would read my short application essay, which is where they asked us to share the recipe you'd like to be included in the cookbook. Mm-hmm. So here it is. If I could perfect and share one recipe with the world, it would be this: Lake Street Bread's hearty whole grain loaf. Lake Street Bread is my mom's retirement project cottage baking business that she runs out of her small Midwestern kitchen on Lake Winnebago in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Every week she bakes 20 loaves and sells them for $5 a piece to friends and neighbors. She's always sold out and a beloved neighborhood baker. She claims that it's the only bread that gives her the perfect carb to whole grain balance, perfect crumb, and most importantly, the energy to make it through her morning water aerobics and YMCA workout before heading home to lunch. A slice of hearty green toast and tea in the morning has sustained her for decades. My mom wasn't always a great cook or a great baker. She tells us stories about bread the weight of bricks that she threw away in the 70s when she was first married. I wasn't always a great cook or bread baker either. After many years of neglecting the kitchen and dismissing the daily joys of home cooking, I had an Oprah aha moment. At 36, I started a podcast with my sister where we cook 3 new recipes a week, every week, from popular food websites and blogs. I've now cooked over 300 recipes from sites like Serious Eats, Food 52, Smitten Kitchen, and cooked my way through 10 cookbooks as part of this project. and I finally started making my mom's hearty whole grain at home for myself and my family. Just this year at Thanksgiving, I looked at my husband and said, this is really good. All of this food I made is really good. I've learned many, many things over the past 2 years, but the most important is the value of a good recipe shared from one home cook to another. Nothing too chefy, food that real people eat and can be made in a home kitchen. When you get that right, even the home cook who almost gave up can experience the intense pleasure of making a good meal. I can successfully make my mom's bread recipe, which is saying something. I think our story and this delicious hearty bread recipe is worth sharing with the world. So, Kate,
it kind of like makes me tear up a little bit. It's just, it's so cool.
Just so people know, they 100% understand.
Yeah.
Who I am.
Mm-hmm. This is really true. I think it's important to note. Like, Betsy was not like, and then it's so amazing. I find all the recipes every week that we make.
Yeah. And I'm sure the judges listened to at least a few episodes before they decided because we were very upfront about the podcast. So I just want to close by saying that if I am now considered to be one of the world's 100 best home cooks, truly anything is possible, people. Anything. And also, takeaway here, apply to all the contests
that is very true
in your inbox.
That is very true. Yeah. I mean, I am so proud of you. I can't. I just, your writing is, it's just, I'm so proud of you. I'm super excited for you. So great that you go to Italy twice without me. So that's fun. You know, good for you.
Yeah.
Happy about that.
I'll say, this is in June or July. So we will keep you posted as things evolve. Yeah. And I will for sure be taking my mic and I will podcast.
So exciting.
Like crazy this whole time. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
Other exciting news. What do we have coming up, Betsy, next week?
Our 100th episode. Kate. Just, what a fantastic week here.
I mean, things are going great. They're going great. 100 episodes. I can't even believe. I mean, there was a point where it's like, Betsy, we've done 15 episodes of this.
I know. And that seems like a lot.
Yeah. So it's just amazing. We're having a very special dinner party to celebrate.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. All right.
We have a lot to celebrate.
We have a lot to celebrate. You're right. With everyone. So excited. All right. That's what's for dinner this week. See you next time on The Dinner Sisters. We'll save a spot at the table for you.
Would you like a little dinner in your inbox every week? Subscribe to our newsletter by going to our website at dinnersisters.com. We've got show notes, all sorts of fun stuff. If you have some dinner ideas or just something to say, shoot us an email at dinnersisterspodcast@gmail.com. Last, as per usual, if you like what you're hearing, please review and subscribe or tell a friend. Actually, that's how people really get to know us. Thanks and happy eating.